Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
In our top story, the 37th Israeli Knesset has been sworn in, and Israelis are starting the new year with a strong and stable government. After several years of political upheaval and 5 rounds of national elections, Benjamin Netanyahu has returned to power as the prime minister of the Jewish state. In his first order of business, Netanyahu and his wife Sarah visited the Western Wall in the old city of Jerusalem to pray for the country and for peace. The premier signed the visitor's log at the holy site, quoting 2 scriptures that he says sum up the actions he has taken upon himself. The first was from Psalms 121, which says, "He who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep." And the second from Isaiah 62, which says, "For the sake of Zion, I will not be silent." In a statement, Netanyahu said, "I come here to our source, to touch the stones of the Western Wall and to remember that we have a duty to preserve the legacy of the past generations and to secure our future for coming generations as well."
Jerusalem has called out the moral corruption at the United Nations and has rejected its decision to refer the Jewish state to the International Criminal Court at The Hague. 2022 was a record year for Israel bashing at the UN General Assembly, where it approved numerous resolutions against Israel while virtually ignoring Palestinian terrorism. According to UN Watch, the General Assembly condemned Israel more than all other nations combined. In its last act against the Jewish state in 2022, the UN requested that the International Court of Justice weigh in on the legality of Israel's policies in Judea, Samaria, and Jerusalem. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vehemently rejected the UN vote and accused the world body of distorting historical facts. He said the Jewish nation is not an occupier in its own land and its eternal capital, Jerusalem.
Recent airstrikes near the Damascus airport in Syria reportedly targeted an Iranian missile battery. Both runways at the international airport were closed for several hours following the attack. Reuters news agency reported that an outpost controlled by Iran's Quds force was also hit. The hardline Islamic Republic has been using airports in Syria to transfer advanced weapons to its proxy armies in the country, as well as to Hezbollah in nearby Lebanon. Dozens of convoys have been destroyed on the ground, prompting Iran to arm its militias by way of cargo planes. Israel has made no comment on its involvement in the strikes, but has repeatedly said that it will not tolerate Iranian entrenchment on its borders.
The Jews of Russia have experienced increasing hardships and are being encouraged to flee the country before their situation worsens. Pinchas Goldschmidt, the exiled chief rabbi of Moscow, has warned Jews of the former Soviet Union that they may be scapegoated for the country's failures in Ukraine. In a recent interview with The Guardian, Goldschmidt said anti-Semitism is on the rise in Russia, which is going back to a new kind of Soviet Union, and step by step the Iron Curtain is coming down again. He added that when we look back over Russian history, wherever the political situation was in danger, you saw the government trying to redirect the anger and discontent of the masses towards the Jewish community.
Itamar Ben-Gvir, Israel's newly appointed Minister of National Security, has called for freedom of movement for Jews and Christians on the Temple Mount. The hawkish MK ascended the holiest site in Judaism last week on the 10th of Tevet, a Jewish fast day mourning Nebuchadnezzar's siege on the holy city of Jerusalem in 425 BCE. Ben-Gvir was cautioned not to go up to Mount Moriah by the Palestinians, who threatened violence, and by Jordan's King Abdullah, who told CNN that the Hashemite kingdom was ready for a conflict. Muslims are concerned that the new Israeli government will change the status quo to allow Jews and Christians to pray on the Temple Mount. Israel captured the holiest site in Judaism in 1967, but in an attempt to make peace with the Arabs, Jerusalem agreed to allow the Jordanian Waqf to retain control of the site. This radical, intolerant Islamic organization heavily limits non-Muslim access to Mount Moriah and strictly forbids Jews and Christians from praying there.
The Jewish state has launched an initiative to fill the Sea of Galilee with desalinated water. The Kinneret is Israel's largest freshwater lake. It provides clean water to the entire country. And in addition, Israel sends hundreds of millions of gallons of water to the Palestinians and Jordan annually. In the past, Israel relied on rainfall to replenish the Kinneret, but now for the first time, Israel will be piping in desalinated seawater to maintain the level of the national lake. Yeheskel Lifshitz, the director of the Water Authority, said this project proves that Israel is leading in innovative thinking and creative planning to guarantee a sustainable water supply, safeguarding Israel's natural resources, and maintaining the Sea of Galilee as a strategic buffer.
Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians gathered in Gaza City to celebrate 58 years of the Fatah terror group. Katiba Park was decked in yellow flags and posters of the notorious terrorist and founder of Fatah, Yasser Arafat, as well as the current Palestinian Authority president, Mahmoud Abbas. The Fatah Party was inaugurated on January 1st, 1965, when the group launched its first armed attack on Israel from Lebanon. Since then, its bloody campaign of terror has targeted civilians in the Jewish state. The strong support of Fatah is rare in Gaza since its rival Hamas holds control of the densely populated enclave. The Iranian-backed terror group has banned most Fatah activities and has brutally oppressed the people of Gaza since its bloody takeover in 2007.
The U.S. News and World Report has published its annual list of most powerful and politically influential countries in the world, and Israel ranked at the top. The article explains that Israel is a small country on the eastern shore of the Mediterranean Sea and is the only Jewish nation in the world. It goes on to say that for its relatively small size, the country has played a large role in global affairs. It has a strong economy, as well as landmarks of significance to several religions. The rankings reflect that Israel has some of the strongest international alliances, and the IDF ranked as the fourth strongest military in the world after Russia, the United States, and China.
Israel Aerospace Industries announced the successful launch of a new satellite from the Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The EROS C3 is one of the newest and most advanced satellites in the world. It is equipped with a cutting-edge space camera capable of providing high-resolution images. IAI released a statement saying the men and women of Israel Aerospace Industries have yet again shown that for them, the sky is not the limit. The launch of the EROS C3 satellite is further proof of the company's technological leadership as a true pathbreaker in space as in other arenas.
Ministers in the new Israeli Knesset have vowed to invest in the biblical heartland. Chaim Katz, the newly inaugurated Minister of Tourism, promised to designate state funds to promoting Judea and Samaria, which is a prime destination for tourists. The region holds many historical and biblical sites, as well as pastoral views and a beautiful climate. During the handover ceremony with his predecessor, Yoel Rasbozov, Katz said, "We will invest in what he called our local Tuscany, Judea and Samaria." Yitzhak Goldknopf, the new housing minister, also pledged to invest in the area, which he believes will provide much-needed housing solutions. He said that increasing infrastructure and security in these areas will encourage more Israelis to settle in the biblical heartland and guarantee continued residence and development in this part of the country.
In archaeological news, an ancient Jewish coin was recently discovered during excavations near the Temple Mount. The 2,000-year-old silver half-shekel was unearthed by a team of archaeologists from Hebrew University in Jerusalem at the Ophel dig site just south of Mount Moriah. This particular coin was minted during the Great Jewish Revolt against Rome during the years 66 to 70 of the Common Era. The rare silver coin depicts a branch with 3 pomegranates and the words Holy Jerusalem on one side, and on the other side it notes that it was minted in the 3rd year of the rebellion, corresponding to the year 69 of the Common Era. This coin is tangible proof of Jewish history in Jerusalem, and researchers believe that the Jewish rebels produced it inside of the temple complex.
The Jewish state has reached nearly 10 million residents. Israel's Central Bureau of Statistics released its annual end-of-the-year report, reflecting that the population has grown to 9,656,000 Israelis. About 74% of the residents are Jewish, 21% are Arabs, and 5% are Christians and other ethnicities and religions. CBS announced that the population increased by 2.2%. 178,000 babies were born in 2022, and 73,000 Jews made Aliyah or immigrated to Israel last year.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Ze'ev Orenstein. He's one of the directors at City of David. Ze'ev, thank you for being on the show.
Great to be here.
Tell our viewers a little bit about what is City of David.
The City of David is the place where Jerusalem began. When you think of people like King David, King Solomon, King Hezekiah, prophets like Isaiah and Jeremiah, they were not hanging out in the old city of Jerusalem. When you think of where the kings of the Bible ruled, where the prophets of the Bible preached, they were all hanging out in the City of David, just south of the Temple Mount and the Western Wall.
Well, you know, Ze'ev, I come all the time to the City of David. I bring all my groups, all the political politicians that I bring to Israel come to the City of David with me. It is probably one of the most fascinating places in the land of Israel. And it's because not only have you uncovered, structures from the time of the City of David, but you actually have uncovered seals and documents from that time. Can you talk a little about that?
So it's an amazing thing that you're able to walk through the City of David, which is one of the most archaeologically excavated sites on the planet, the most archaeologically excavated site in Israel, and you could literally walk with the Bible in one hand, and you see what is being unearthed on the other side, and they match up. So you have, like you mentioned, inscriptions dating back to the time of the biblical King Hezekiah, talking about how he engineers a tunnel to protect Jerusalem from the impending Assyrian siege. We have seals of the ministers of King Zedekiah, the last king of the Davidic dynasty, who plotted to kill the prophet Jeremiah. We find seals just next to the City of David belonging to King Hezekiah himself, the prophet Isaiah. And so the amazing thing is, you could take the Bible, and people want to know, are the people who marched through the pages of the Bible, were they real people? Are the events real events? And the excavations taking place in the City of David allow a person to not only believe, but to know that Jerusalem's biblical heritage is not simply a matter of faith, but a matter of fact.
Yeah, one of the most amazing things that I've seen there is the newly uncovered pilgrimage road. That was a huge project you took on, and when you're there, it's just mind-boggling to walk that path up towards the Temple Mount. Tell us a little bit about that.
So Josephus the historian says that you would have had thousands of years ago, say 2,000 years ago, on the pilgrimage festivals. We're talking about Passover, Pentecost, Tabernacles. The Bible mandates that all of Israel has to go up on pilgrimage to the temple. So what would happen? First, you have to go and cleanse yourself in a ritual bath, a mikvah. The largest one, of course, in Jerusalem, going back thousands of years, was the Pool of Siloam at the southern end of the City of David, which we discovered in 2004 because of a busted sewage pipe. Once the archaeologists find the Pool of Siloam, they say, well, if this is the pool, how did all the millions of pilgrims get up to the Temple Mount on that half-mile journey from the pool? They widen the excavation, and they are presently excavating, as we speak, the actual pilgrimage road, the biblical superhighway that our ancestors walked on when they went on pilgrimage up to the temple.
You know, what's amazing is it's just the archaeology and the old, but you've actually blended it with the new. You do a night show with pictures and lasers and something that's really as high-tech as I've ever seen. Why was it important to give it that new flair as well?
So the challenge in the City of David is we want to keep the ancient. We don't want to turn it into Disneyland, but at the same time, to use technology to help people connect to the heritage of Jerusalem. And so what we have in the City of David almost every night is on the actual stones going back thousands of years. In this case, stones dating back to the time of Nehemiah, where the Bible says that in just over 50 days, Nehemiah rebuilds 2,300 years ago the walls around Jerusalem. On the actual walls, on the stones that Nehemiah lays 2,300 years ago, we are projecting onto those walls the story of the return to Zion in the time of Nehemiah and the rebuilding of Jerusalem. So taking the ancient stones and using that as the backdrop to tell one of Jerusalem's most significant stories.
You know what's interesting is that it's layered at Ir David. You have the first temple, and then the second temple, and then a different period, and then the Maccabees, and you had a schoolgirl find coins from the time of the Maccabees. Are we the next layer in that story of Jerusalem? How do you see it when you unfold it from the beginning to the end?
Well, the exciting thing about a place like the City of David is there are ancient sites you could visit in this country where if you go there today and you were there 20 years ago and you're there 20 years from now, they're not going to change. They've largely been excavated. There's not much new to find. we have only uncovered about a third of the city of David, which means in our lifetime, in the lifetime of our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, they're still going to be uncovering the heritage of the city of David going back thousands of years, which means really we're a part of that story. The story's not finished, and we're helping to uncover the future chapters of that story and make it accessible to the millions of people who are visiting every year and the billions at home who want to connect to that heritage, and we're privileged to make that happen.
You made a good point. There's always something coming up, something new. What's the newest thing happening at Ir David right now?
The newest thing is just south of the city of David. There is a place called the Hula Valley. I bet many of the viewers at home, they've heard of a place called Gehenna, which is hell. And yet we are turning hell into paradise. Gehenna was the place where you had the Molech child sacrifice, and yet today it's a place where children are coming and planting and harvesting, and it is one of the most beautiful places in Jerusalem now. A place that used to be synonymous with evil is now being turned into a place full of life and rejuvenation and redemption, and it's a place that you and your family have not yet been to. So that's next on the bucket list for you guys.
Well, we'll definitely make that. Ze'ev, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
You know, we're living in a time today where, whether it's at the United Nations or elsewhere, where people are questioning Jerusalem's biblical heritage, the connection of Jews and Christians to Jerusalem. And when you visit the city of David, you are literally able to walk in a place where you see your faith come to life, where the very excavations that are being unearthed allow you to see that your connection to Jerusalem, her heritage to the Bible, is not simply a matter of faith, but a matter of fact. And every day we're uncovering something new. So please come see it for yourself and deepen your connection to Jerusalem, to its heritage, and to your faith.
Thank you, Ze'ev, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom, and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod. I'm Sam Grunwork, World Chairman of Karen Hayesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Today, all God's people rejoice in Jerusalem, the undivided capital of Israel. God bless you from Jerusalem.
Despite enduring thousands of years of danger and persecution, the Jewish people never lost the heartfelt dream of returning home to the eternal city of Jerusalem, to the land of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to King David's capital. Scattered across the four corners of the earth, Jerusalem continued to beat relentlessly in the heart of every Jew. Through the darkest of days, the dream remained to see Jeremiah's prophecy come to life. There is hope for your future. Your children will return to their borders. And 50 years ago, the impossible happened. Exiled, dispersed, and downtrodden for generations, the Jewish people finally returned to Jerusalem. Faced with the might of multiple Arab armies, Israel's soldiers plucked victory from the jaws of tragedy. Finally, Jews could walk in the footsteps of their biblical forefathers and touch the stones of the Western Wall once more. In the 5 decades since then, Jerusalem has become a city transformed. From the rubble of war, a modern, high-tech metropolis has been built. A political capital and a cultural capital has blossomed. New neighborhoods continue to be built, while cutting-edge medical centers, universities, and research hubs lead the world. And all the time, a heavenly tranquility can be felt as the faithful of 3 religions worship, live, and play in freedom. Jews continue today to flock to Jerusalem to witness and live this modern-day miracle. They arrive from the four corners of the earth to experience a Jerusalem which their ancestors could not possibly have imagined. Soon, the Jews of Israel will outnumber those living in the rest of the world for the first time in 2 millennia. With the help of Karen Hayesod's supporters, they are making new lives in the land of Israel. The Jewish people are truly coming home. They are part of a thriving, dynamic city. A city which stands at the crossroads of the past and the future, the ancient and the modern, where thousands of years of history blend seamlessly with the promise of a better, brighter tomorrow. Thus says the Lord God, Behold, I will lift up my hand to the nations and set up my standard to the peoples, and they will bring your sons in their bosom, and your daughters will be carried on their shoulders. To this day, Karen Hayesod is helping Jews around the world come home with the help of Jews and non-Jews alike. But the mission is not yet complete. Jerusalem continues to develop, to strive for greater prosperity. Ethiopian Jews continue to arrive, facing the difficult challenge of absorption. The possibilities for this special city, with this special community at its heart, are endless. And together, we can write the next chapter in a history like no other.
Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, visit khisrael.org.
And now, Shining Light from Israel.
Rich in biblical archaeology and natural beauty, the beautiful Hula Valley, located 10 miles north of the Sea of Galilee. One of the most important biblical cities here in the Hula Valley is Tel Hatzor, where we're visiting right now. I'm walking through the city gates of First Temple period Hatzor. This 6-chambered gate was built by King Solomon, the son of King David. And archaeologists have determined exactly what we see here is the way it's described in the Bible, giving us concrete evidence of the historical authenticity of the Bible. And that, my friends, is just incredible. Tel Hatzor is located on an ancient trade route called the Via Maris. The Via Maris connected Egypt, Africa, and Asia. It is described as being the head of all the Canaanite kingdoms here in the land of Israel. And the excavations here have revealed significant ancient archaeological finds, many of which are found in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. After Joshua conquered Hatzor, he burned it to the ground. And you can see right here the ash from the destruction that took place here, literally 3,300 years ago. The water system carved out of the rock nearly 150 feet into the ground, where there would be another tunnel traversing the landscape to a pool of water. And why go through all of this trouble? To ensure that the water supply would be inside the city in case of siege. Now come with me as we explore more of the Hula Valley. Welcome to the Agamon Nature Park, a project that was developed by the Jewish National Fund. The reason being, as you look out onto this beautiful landscape, I want you to realize that this is one of the most important bird migration routes in the entire world. Birds leaving Europe in the wintertime, heading south towards Africa, pass through this valley every single year before returning in the spring. Let's now head down and see all the amazing activities one can do here. So the park has an incredible state-of-the-art visitor center that kids enjoy. It's IMAX theater, as well as these virtual reality goggles that make you feel like you're flying with the cranes over the Hula Valley and even straight across all of Israel. In addition, once inside the park, they got this great circular route that brings you to various places around the park to view the wildlife. You can see it by foot, rent bicycles, bring your own, or what I choose to do, rent a golf cart, and it enables you to see the entire park. One of my favorite stops on the route is the Botanical Gardens. It's a lush green area where you get to learn a little bit about the ecology, the various plants that grow here in the Hula Valley, and honestly, it's just a stunning park to take some great pictures with your family. Wow, it's so incredible to see the variety of plants that are growing here in the Botanical Gardens. In fact, there are over 100 plants here, many of them endangered. Come, let's check out more of the park. Wow, this is really incredible. You can literally stop anywhere you want on this path and see hundreds of birds. Right now, we're looking east. You have the Golan Heights over there, and there must be hundreds of cranes right now resting and feeding here in the valley. They also have these wagon tours at sunrise and sunset, and on any given day during the migration season, you might have 250,000 birds landing at sunset, from pelicans to flamingos to cranes. It really is a sight to behold. Wow, absolutely stunning. Make sure on your next visit to come to the Hula Valley. You can come for the biblical archaeology, but stay for the incredible beauty.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Rebecca Roberts.
And I'm Yochanan Elron, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.